want to introduce you to Heather Rodriguez. She is the director of the Indiana Recovery Network, manager of recovery and community development for Indiana with Indiana Addictions Issues Coalition, and is a graduate of Indiana Wesleyan University and holds a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in social work. Heather is also a certified alcohol and drug addiction counselor, level 2, and a certified addiction peer recovery coach. Heather has a passion for working with underserved and marginalized populations and loves working with organizations and individuals throughout the state of Indiana to develop and strengthen recovery ecosystems. Heather helped create and oversees the statewide Regional Recovery Hub program, which consists of 20 organizations providing free peer recovery support services in all 92 counties. Heather is a person in sustained recovery and believes that recovery supports are an integral part of an individual's journey to overcome challenges associated with substance use and/or mental health concerns, and that individuals have the right to choose which pathway of recovery works best for them. Heather is a mother and an avid Colts and Pacers fan. So welcome, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimbra. I feel like I need to shorten that a little bit. Yikes. All right. Well, thank you for inviting me to attend this meeting and present to everybody. I have presented on the IRN in the early days of the ICN, so some of you may recall that. If not, so it'll be a refresher. I'm not going to go too far in the weeds and mostly just focus on where we are now. So let me pull up my presentation. All right. Everybody see that okay? All righty. Okay, so I'll go over like my name and title again, because I think Kimbra explained that pretty thoroughly. So thank you again. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of back info on the Indiana Recovery Network. And so the Indiana Recovery Network was conceptualized in 2017, and it was identified that there was a need for basically a one-stop type shop for folks to go to that were looking for recovery support services in our state. So prior to the IRN, you know, folks might be looking for recovery support services. One, they didn't even know really what that meant, because recovery and peers wasn't really well known yet in our state, and there weren't the buzzwords going around like we hear about today. And so, you know, when you did a Google search on recovery, a lot of times treatment would pop up, which certainly treatment is super important, is life-changing for a lot of people, but that's not sustained recovery support, because treatment, as most of us know, it's more acute and time sensitive, right? It's not ongoing. People aren't usually in treatment for more than 90 days. So having recovery support is super important for sustained recovery. So treatment would pop up, or oftentimes it would be some well-known mutual aid groups, which again, super important for a lot of folks, but it doesn't work for everybody, or recovery from a physical injury or some other type of chronic illness, not necessarily substance use or even mental health. So there was a need identified, and then we started working on the website and kind of really thinking about what will the Indiana Recovery Network focus on as a website and a resource. And so we started thinking about SAMHSA's 4 dimensions of recovery, which are health, home, purpose, and community, and how those play a role in sustained recovery for folks, right? Because again, you know, if I'm in active addiction, early recovery, and I don't even have a safe place to live, I'm not thinking about, you know, meeting with my SUD therapist or attending these meetings and things like that. If I have to worry about where am I sleeping at night? How am I going to get food in my belly? All these other things. So we wanted to be a resource to connect people to other services that they're going to need to live just healthy lives, quite honestly. And so we modeled our website after that and wanted to think about free resources throughout the entire state of Indiana, which is not an easy task. And so doing that research, providing resources for each of those dimensions, and then also connecting people to recovery-focused organizations throughout the state, similar to the ICN on our website. So we have all those resources. We also have a news tab. Our news focuses more on anything that's relevant to the field of behavioral health and mental health. We do try to share things that are more prevalent to the state of Indiana, but certainly national news plays a role also and informs what we're doing here. And then we have an events page. And so that is a lot of trainings and then fun, sober, social, community type events. And so a lot of our recovery organizations that are members post a wide variety of events, and we try to spread the word on those. And then, of course, videos. So we have a monthly meeting similar to this one that's open to anybody. We record it, post it on the website. And then we also have some different educational type videos that are available as well. So we went live with our website in 2019. We also developed a mobile app that's available on both Android and Apple. And I think I'll talk about that a little bit later. And so just some history there, now I think it's on the next slide. So I won't go too far, read all that, just let you kind of peruse that. But, in those early days of starting the IRN, it was a lot of me going to places and trying to share with folks what our vision was. And it was kind of a lot of sideways looks, a lot of people not responding to my emails, which is fine. But since those early days, we now have 98 registered members who are, members of the IRN. We do have a few LCCs that are members of the IRN. So we're always looking to add more members of the IRN, and it is free to join. 1/3 of our members are recovery community organizations. And so they are community-based, providing free peer support services, individual support, groups, fun activities, all kinds of things. So it's a good place to connect with your local RCO through our website. Again, we hold the meetings. Our meetings, usually we have a legislative update when legislation is in session. Someone from some part of the Division of Mental Health and Addictions will share about a new service or program they have. And then one of our registered members always presents as well. And then we open up the end of the meeting to everybody who wants to share anything that they're doing. And then, okay, so yeah, connection to recovery organizations throughout the state. So the goal is to bridge gaps in services and eliminate silos. So again, before the IRN, the early days, there were a lot of orgs doing great work throughout the entire state, but they weren't really working together, didn't know about each other, not communicating or collaborating. So we really wanted to eliminate that for organizations, right? Because the end goal that we're all focusing on is helping individuals and families get into and sustain their recovery. So that connection and collaboration was super important and still is. And then as well, like I mentioned earlier, a place for folks to go and find out what the heck is available in my community and how do I get plugged into that organization. So when folks come to our website, they can do a search by city or zip code, and then that'll show a list of our registered members that are in those areas and what types of services they provide, and folks can make an informed decision of who they want to connect with from there. And then we as an organization also provide free technical assistance for new and emerging recovery community organizations. So if somebody wants to start their own RCO, we provide free support on how that, what that process entails and all the things that go along with that. And then, so now I'll go to one of our largest, or I guess our primary program that we started was in April of 2020 due to COVID-19. And so when COVID happened, of course, most of a lot of places had to close their doors. They were operating at limited capacity, and there was this huge concern that folks were going to be left without a connection to supports. And so, DMHA and the governor's office already were familiar with the IRN, our membership base, and the work that we'd already kind of been doing in the state. And they wanted to figure out a way that we could still make a connection to recovery supports accessible to all individuals despite COVID closures and long wait lists and all those things. And so from there, we created the Regional Recovery Hub program. So we started out with 12 organizations that were hubs. And since April 2020, we now have 20 organizations that are hubs. They provide free peer support services to all 92 counties in the state. Our hubs are comprised of a variety of recovery organizations. And so we do have an LCC that's a hub. We have a couple coalitions, recovery community organizations, a few recovery cafes, also a couple of orgs that are harm reduction focused, and also BIPOC led and focused organizations. But of course, they offer supports to anybody in need. And then, so the goal of the hubs is to deliver community-based peer support services for folks who identify with either mental health or substance use concerns, or both. And because this is grant funded through the Division of Mental Health and Addiction, it's totally free of charge. There's no criteria, no caveat. Folks can just get the help that they need, and then from there get connected to other services, with the goal obviously being recovery. So again, so the IRN or the hubs really was initially to mobilize the peer workforce. And what that means is getting the peers out into the communities throughout the state to work with folks who were just in need of services. And so we did that in the early days, and are still doing that now. Of course, now a lot of the hubs that have physical locations are open, and so people can come to their centers and get connected to services. But for sure, in the early days, it was really getting folks out to meet folks where they are, but not leaving them there, right? And so we hear that a lot. We're going to meet you where you're at, but we're not going to leave you there. We're going to work with you and get you where you want to go. And so I won't go through all of those. I will say, you know, the hubs and peers there are, they can be complementary to treatments, but obviously they don't provide clinical services. We have really been advocating for a connection between treatment facilities and each hub to know, you know, the folks that are waiting to get in your treatment facility can't connect with a peer at a hub until they're able to get into your facility. And then even when they leave your facility, they can reconnect with that peer, right? And so they're not lost in the shuffle. They're not lost in that, you know, when folks are ready to enter treatment, they're at that stage of change where they're ready to take action. And so we don't want them to lose that just because they may be put on a wait list to get into treatment. So a hub peer can provide or play a valuable role in that process for somebody. And since April of 2020, our hubs have provided over 77,000 services throughout the entire state. And those services include individual peer support services, group services, and then referrals to other community-based services. So we've been able to provide a lot of support and services to folks since we started. And that is through March. So we just got the April data all figured out, and I didn't include that, but probably a little bit more than that at this time. And so here's a map of our hubs. And so what we did was in the early days, we divided the state into 5 regions. And then through those regions, we kind of divided those amongst the hubs where they're located and what was a realistic reach for each hub. And so the goal, you know, is to be a space, whether it's in person or via telephone, for folks to call and connect with a peer support. And so, you know, a lot of the hubs will go to a physical location counties away and meet with people if that's what they need. But we didn't want to overwhelm any one hub. Probably in the early days, some of the hubs were overwhelmed when it was only 12 of them, but we've since grown. And so that shows you, you know, how many hubs we have, which counties they covered. There are some overlaps in counties amongst hubs, and each hub, you know, their primary focus and structure may vary a little bit, but at the end of the day, they all provide free peer support services. So we have some that may focus more on recovery through arts, health, wellness, some that focus primarily on the reentry population. I mean, it's a wide variety, like I mentioned earlier, but the thing that ties them all together is the peer-based services. We also became a part of 211 in August of, gosh, I guess it was 2021, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, so we also make our peers available through 211, and we expanded to 24 hours a day in December of last year. And so before that, it was I think just Monday through Friday. It was very limited, but what we found was that we were missing a lot of calls on the overnight hours. And that for some folks is just really can be a life or death, not to be too dramatic, but, you know, when somebody's at their lowest point, it's 3 a.m. and they're calling to get connected, you know, we were missing those folks, right? And so through our partners at DMHA, we received funding for 211 to expand to 24 hours. And so, you know, all the agents or operators on 211 are certified peer supports. They can provide real-time recovery coaching or peer sessions to folks if that's what they need. A lot of what we get are just folks looking for other services. And so the coaches or the operators can connect them to other services. Sometimes it's external and sometimes it's our regional recovery hubs. Sometimes it's just a matter of rerouting that caller to an additional resource within 211 because 211 has a whole bunch of resources as well. And so we know how to do all those things on 211. Something that we just announced in April was we also are providing free Lyft transportation services through our regional recovery hubs. And so with this, you know, the criteria is that a person just really needs to connect with their local hub. There is some data collection that is required because, again, this is grant funded. And so, you know, data, the DMHA loves data, which is fine. And so, but the primary thing is they have to connect with their local regional recovery hub. From there, a peer at that hub can call 211 and request a Lyft ride for that person. Really, well, it says Monday through Sunday, 9 to 8. We have found that though, you know, in some one-off instances, somebody might work kind of late and need a ride back at 10 p.m. and that's okay too. We can schedule rides up to 72 hours in advance for somebody. And these rides can be for anything that applies to those 4 dimensions of recovery that I mentioned earlier. So it can be for, you know, if they want to attend an in-person recovery support meeting, could also be if they just need to go to the grocery store, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments. Maybe they need to meet their, you know, probation officer. If they need a ride to work, but they got to drop the kiddo off at daycare or school, they can get a Lyft for that too. So really is a wide variety of needs that the Lyft service can be available for. And then here's our app that I mentioned. We do have more bubbles since what's here, but just to kind of give you a brief understanding of what that is. So we have this app that's available. Each bubble represents a peer that's available throughout the state. So when folks download the app, they can open it up, click on whatever bubbles near them that they want to, send a text message, and then a peer will respond to them within a matter of minutes. So it's just a good way to get that direct real-time support that you might need. And it could be, hey, I'm having a tough day. I really just need to talk to somebody right now. Or it could be, hey, do you know where the nearest whatever type of meeting is available? And so a peer can help with any of those things. And so some ways folks can connect to the hubs is one through our website, and it's the IndianaRecoveryNetwork.org. On our websites, you'll see the tabs up there. We have a tab that's just for the regional recovery hubs. So somebody can click on that. It'll show a list of all the hubs broken down by region. There's also a tab within there to bring up that lovely colorful map I showed you all. So that's one way folks can connect with peers and the hubs there. There's also the connect to a peer feature on our homepage there. And that's just a simple Google document, and it is bilingual. So somebody can fill that out, and then a peer will respond to them within 24 hours usually. There's also the Need the Lyft tab there. And so that just shows that flyer that I just shared with you all in the previous couple slides, and provides information on how folks get connected to the Lyft services, which is through the hub. A couple of things that we also do are some trainings. And so we offer a 2-hour free recovery ecosystems training, and we cover a variety of topics during that training. And so really it's just giving folks a kind of a foundational understanding of substance use as a chronic disease, and the effects that substance use have on not only individuals, but families and communities as well. And then the difference between treatment and recovery. So like I mentioned earlier, treatment is short-term, it's acute, it serves a purpose for sure in recovery, but it's not a form of a recovery pathway or sustained recovery. And then we go into what is available in our states, or like we call it the recovery infrastructure. So what those different pieces are, how folks can get connected, and then we close it with some stigma education. We also offer a RCO, or Recovery Community Organization 101, and that's a 6-hour free training that we're doing. And just gives basic understanding of what an RCO is, the history of the recovery movement, all kinds of pieces. I won't go into the weeds on that. And it is helpful for any new or emerging 501c3. Honestly, I mean, it is recovery focused, but there are some good takeaways, I think, for any individual that's looking to start a nonprofit organization. Couple of things that are coming up. We are hosting the state's first ever Indiana Recovery Community Summit in partnership with DMHA and the Governor's Office Next Level Recovery. And so this summit is being held on June 17th. We do still have tickets available, and it's really bringing together all the different pieces of the state's recovery ecosystem or infrastructure. We have some national guest speakers that will be there. And just learning about what kind of recovery supports are available throughout the state, how can you connect with those organizations, and really connecting those organizations with one another. We're all just getting back to being in person again after these past couple of years. And so it's a really good opportunity to catch up with folks, learn about new things that are going on, maybe some takeaways for your organization or community. Another thing that we are working on is developing the state's a state certification for recovery community organizations. And so this is pretty rare. I'm not really aware of any other state that has a certification. So we're doing this alongside the Division of Mental Health and Addictions and Recovery Works. And so we are right now piloting this with 5 organizations and are hoping to have it live for everybody late summer, early fall. So more to come on that, but just if you know anybody who's interested in becoming an RCO or is an RCO and might want to be certified, just send them my way. I'm happy to talk about what this entails. And really the idea to get the certification is to connect folks with Recovery Works billing eventually, because there was legislation passed last July that RCOs could bill for peer supports through Recovery Works. And so it's expanded now beyond treatment and outpatient treatment and recovery residents. But the one criteria is that they wanted certification, some standards, ethical things followed, all that kind of good stuff. And so that's where we come in. But then also, I think we'll see it in state grants and possibly federal. Well, it'll say that the criteria is that the organization is a certified RCO. So just good thing to get ahead of the curve, I think, on that. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions, I try to get through everything kind of quickly-ish. You can email me anytime if you want any additional information about anything I've shared. There is our website. You can find out about the hubs there, the summits, lifts, all the things that I discussed. And I think that's all I got. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Heather. Does anybody have any questions for Heather? And if you can't unmute and need to type them in the chat, you can feel free to do so. I will say I do have a question. The RCO training, will there be another training soon, or when how will that work? Just the information.
We don't have any scheduled right now, but maybe after we get through the summit and stuff, we'll offer another one. But at the moment, we do not have one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. There's one in the chat. Can arranging for transportation through Lyft only be done in the app? If there is a local Lyft driver who would like to assist, how can they make sure that they, as a driver, are showing as available to provide transportation? And then it goes on to say, we have had issues in my county with Lyft drivers not picking up individuals who have requested transportation. So we want to make sure that reliable drivers are shown as available to provide transportation in the Lyft system.
So we don't have anything to do with the Lyft transportation, like their system at all. Like that's a Lyft thing. But I will say if somebody wants to use the free Lyft service that we have available, they would want to connect with the hub. And then the hub would do the data collection that's required. And then through the hub, they can pre-schedule the ride up to 72 hours in advance for that person. So if somebody has an appointment, and they know like on Monday, I'm going to need a ride, connect with the peer at that hub and they can pre-schedule it. And what we found, especially in rural areas, is scheduling the rides in advance usually has a better response or turnaround rate for drivers to pick up the rides because they know that that's a guaranteed ride, right? And so scheduling them in advance, I think is super helpful. Also, what we've been told by Lyft is the more rides that we're able to schedule in the rural areas, the more the drivers are going to pick up like, hey, there's a need in this community or this county. I need to be more available. And so it's kind of a reverse supply and demand. But as far as like Lyft, anything in the system, in the app, not my wheelhouse. But if somebody wants to connect through our hubs to Lyft, they can do that. And that's what I would encourage.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. That was great information and great resources. There's already been some comments in the chat about that. So super excited about that. Let's turn it over to Sadia for now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to give you a quick update about the CCP approval and the next step in the process. I must say that you guys have been very patient and I truly appreciate your cooperation throughout the entire time. As far as the CCP review is concerned, the good news is that we have completed the CCP review process. In fact, I got final approval from our executive director this morning and have already started sending approvals out. Some of you must have received approvals by now. Those who have not received approval letters yet should receive them by the end of this Friday or next Tuesday at the latest. Please note that we will send approval letters via email to your county auditor and you will be CC'd on that. If you will not receive approval letter by next Tuesday, there are two scenarios. Either you have not submitted a correct CCP to us, or either you have not submitted the CCP certification letter. If that's not the case with you and you have not heard from us by next Tuesday, I will strongly encourage you to send us an email for a follow-up. Next, I would like to talk about the next step that you are required to complete for CCP approval. After you will receive CCP approval letter, you will receive an email from ICJI requesting you to do an e-signature in the IntelliGrants. E-signature is the final step for the CCP approval, and it is necessary for you to sign it in the IntelliGrants. We will send you an email about when and how to complete the e-signature in the IntelliGrants. Lastly, I would like to remind counties who have not submitted their correct CCPs yet. The due date is today, so please make sure that you will send your correct CCP via email by the end of today to avoid administrative hold being placed on your drug-free community fund. And in the end, I would like to thank you all for your patience and the work that you are doing for your communities. And I truly, truly appreciate your cooperation. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, Sadia. I know that you have been a little swamped lately, and we're really glad to see that Janet. Hello, Janet. Everybody can see Janet. She is replacing Corey, so we're really excited to have you come on board and be a resource for the Indiana coalitions also and our LCCs. Truly appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to say, Janet?
No, other than I'm just really excited to get to know everybody, meet everybody, and see all of the fantastic work that you're doing in your communities. and to continue to build and foster relationships between the LCCs and CJI so we can continue to do better for our communities.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to thank you, Janet, in front of everyone, because she has been really helpful. She has been giving me additional support to make sure that we will finish the review process as early as possible. So she has been a really good helping hand. So thank you, Janet.
Well, thank you, Sadia, for your outstanding and fantastic support in teaching me how to do all of this. So I'll one-up you in the compliments.
Thank you for your words.
All right. I want to let you guys know what our next 2 seminars are going to be on so you can plan your days. June 23rd, we are going to have someone from the SEOW, the State Epidemiology Outcomes Work Group. I think I got that correct. They will be here next month, which we will be returning back to Thursday, the 23rd. And then on July 28th, we're going to have a community learning collaborative from CareSource. And we have some tentatives for August, so I can't tell you for sure who that's going to be, but I can tell you in September, Kim Linkle, if you've ever been able to observe any or be a part of her presentations, she is actually the director of Batesville, their LCC, but she's also a CADCA instructor. So that's kind of the cream of the crop. So she's going to be here presenting. And if you have anything specific that you want her to present on, let us know. She does do a couple presentations on how to coalition build around youth. And she also does one on nuts and bolts of coalition development. So she has a lot of things in her wheelhouse. And she just asked that if you have anything specific, just you can stay on or feel free to email any of the ICN contact people to make that happen. Thank you.